Beowulf, Part 2, Grendel's Mother. You're listening to Classics Made Clear, classic texts translated with accuracy and accessibility for today's listener. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share these videos with your friends. Many warriors stayed behind to guard the hall, as they had often done before. They spread blankets across the benches, laying out beds and pillows. One beer servant, bold but doomed, lay down on the floor to sleep. At their heads they set their battle shields, bright wooden shields, and on the bench above the warriors rested their tall battle helmets, their ring-linked mail shirts, and proud spear shafts. This was their custom, that they were always ready for battle, at home or on campaign, whenever their lord might need them. It was a loyal people. Then they sank into sleep. One man paid dearly for it, a painful price for resting, as often happened ever since Grendel had haunted the Gold Hall, committed his evil until the end came, death for his sins. It became well known that the Avenger still lived after the hateful one, long after the battle troubles. Grendel's mother, a terrible monster woman, remembered her misery. She lived in dark waters, cold streams, ever since Cain became the sword killer of his own brother, his nearest kin. Blood-stained, he fled. Marked with murder, forced to abandon human joy, dwelling in the wilderness. From him sprang many monstrous spirits, and Grendel was one of them, a fierce, hated warrior creature who found in Heorot a man awake, waiting for battle. There the monster was seized, yet Beowulf remembered the strength of his might and the priceless gift God had given him, and he trusted in the mercy and help of the Almighty. Thus he overcame the fiend and defeated the spirit from hell. Grendel fled in shame, bereft of joy, to see his death home, enemy of mankind. But his mother, greedy and bitter of heart, wanted to go on a sorrowful journey to avenge her son's death. Grendel's mother came then to Heorot, where the ring-giving Danes were sleeping throughout the hall. Suddenly, there was a reversal of joy for the warriors when Grendel's mother slipped inside. Her terror was less, just as a woman's battle strength is less than a man's, less than that of a warrior wielding a bound, hammer-forged sword, a blood-stained blade, its boar crest shining on the helmet, its deadly edge cutting fiercely. But still, danger filled the hall. Hard-edged swords were drawn, blades lifted over benches, broad shields raised, hands tight on hilts. Helmets forgotten, armor forgotten. Fear pressed down on them. She was in haste, driven to flee and save her life the moment she was discovered. Quickly she seized one of the nobles, gripping him tightly, and carried him away as she fled to the marsh. This man was Hrothgar's dearest warrior among all his companions between the two seas, a mighty shield fighter, a noble hero. And she snatched him from his bed, this glorious man. Beowulf was not there. A different sleeping space had been assigned to the great Geit after he received his treasure gifts. A cry of horror rose in Heorot. The monster woman carried off the well-known hand of Grendel from where it hung, dripping blood. Sorrow was renewed, fresh grief filling the hall. It was not a good exchange, that each side now paid with the lives of their friends. Then the wise old king, grey-haired warrior, was shaken with grief when he learned his chief thane, the dearest one, was dead. At once Beowulf was brought from his chamber, the hero ready for victory. Together in the early day, an earl went with him. A noble warrior, Beowulf with his companions, to see the wise king, who wondered whether the Almighty would ever grant him again a turn of good fortune after this new sorrow. Then the battle-worthy man, Beowulf, walked across the floor. His hand on his shield made the hall's wood echo as he approached the wise king, and asked in words whether Hrothgar had rested at all after the night's troubles. Hrothgar, the helm of the Shieldings, replied, "Do not ask about peace or good fortune. Sorrow has returned to the people of the Danes. Eochaire is dead, Irminlaf's older brother, my secret counselor and trusted adviser, my shoulder companion whenever we protected our helmets in battle, when foot troops clashed and boar crests rang on helmets. Such was Eochaire, a noble warrior, a truly good prince. He was killed in Heorot by a wandering slaughter spirit. I do not know whether that terrible devourer returned to her den, rejoicing in her feast. She has avenged the feud, the one you began last night when you killed Grendel with your fierce grip, for he had for too long cut down my people and destroyed our fate. He died in battle, guilty of death, and now another has come, a mighty criminal who wants to avenge her son. She has stirred up a feud far and wide, which many warriors may feel deeply when they think of their treasure-giver, a terrible heart sorrow. Now the hand lies still, the hand that was your source of so many victories and joys. I have heard, Hrothgar continued, from those who know the land well, my own counselors, that they have seen two such creatures keeping to the moors, huge boundaries, haunters, alien spirits. One of them, as best as they could tell, looked like a woman. The other looked like a deformed man, walking the tracks of exile, bigger than any other man. In ancient days, the people of the land called that one Grendel. No one knows their father, nor whether any secret spirit brought them into birth. They inhabit dark, hidden lands, wolf slopes, windy cliffs, deadly mountain paths, where a mountain stream runs down beneath the shrouding cliffs, the flood flowing under the earth. It is not far from here, just a mile perhaps, that the monster lake, lies. Over the mere hang frosty, frost-coated trees, their roots gripping the rocks, their branches overshadowing the water. There, every night, one can see a dreadful wonder, fire glowing on the water. No man alive is wise enough to know how deep the lake goes. Even a hunted stag, pursued by hounds, exhausted, cornered by fear, would rather give up its life on the bank than leap into that place to hide its head. It is not a safe place. From there, black waves rise up and swirl toward the clouds whenever the wind stirs and hateful storms rage until the air darkens and the heavens cry. Now, Hrothgar said, the help we need depends on you alone. You still do not know this land, the dangerous place where you may find a deeply sinful creature. Seek her, if you dare. I will reward you with treasure for the feud you avenge, with ancient riches, with twisted gold, as I have already done, if you return alive. Beowulf, son of Ecgtheow, replied, Do not grieve, wise king. It is better for every man to avenge his friend than to mourn too much. Each of us must wait for the end of our life in this world. Let a warrior accomplish glory before death. That is best for him once he is no longer living. Rise now, guardian of the kingdom. Let us go quickly to look at the trail of Grendel's mother. I promise you, she will not escape us either in the depths of the mere, or in the earth, or in the mountain woods, or in the seabed, wherever she may flee. Only for this day, bear your sorrow with patience, as I expect you will. The old king leaped up and thanked God, the mighty Lord, for the hero's speech. Hrothgar's horse was saddled, a beautifully woven, mane-twisted mount. The wise old king rode forth, The troop of shield-bearing warriors followed. Their footprints were visible far and wide along the forest paths as they traced her trail across the dark moor. They carried with them the best of their noble warriors, lifeless. Ashera, the one Hrothgar cherished most. The noble warriors climbed steep rocky slopes, narrow tracks, lonely paths, dangerous ridges, past many creatures' lairs. One of the men went ahead to scout, looking over the land until he suddenly saw a grove of mountain trees leaning over grey stone, a joyless wood. Beneath it stood the water, bloody and disturbed. For all the Danes, the shielding friends, it was heartbreaking to endure the sight. It was terrifying to every warrior when they found Ashera's head on the cliff near the water. The water boiled with blood as the people watched, the hot gore swirling. At times a horn sounded a bold battle song. Then the entire company sat down. Then they saw in the water many creatures of the monster kind, strange sea dragons testing the waves, and sea beasts lying along the cliffs, creatures who at dawn often haunt the sorrowful paths of sailors, snakes and wild beasts of the deep. When they heard the warrior's horn, they shrank away, bitter, enraged, startled by the sound. A Geatish fighter shot one of them with his bow, ending its life. The hard war arrow stuck in its body. It was slower in the water, and the wound brought death. Quickly the men speared it with boar-tipped weapons, sharp, cruel points, and forced it up to the headland, dragging the strange wave-traveller onto the shore for all to see. The warriors stared at the terrifying creature. Beowulf prepared himself, not caring for his own life. He put on his warrior's armor, the hand-woven mail-coat, broad and skillfully made, built to protect his rib-cage so that no enemy's deadly grip could crush or harm his heart. A bright helmet guarded his head, the one that would dive to the bottom of the mere, into the surging, swirling water. It was decorated with treasure, surrounded with noble chains. Weaponsmiths in earlier days had crafted it in wondrous ways and set upon it the image of a boar, so that neither flame nor sword could bite the warrior wearing it. Yet this was not the greatest help he received. Unferth, Hrothgar's spokesman, lent him a priceless old sword, Hrunting. Its iron edge was marked with deadly poison, hardened in battle blood, and it had never failed any man who carried it into war and dared a grim journey to dangerous places. It was not the first time this sword was meant to achieve heroic deeds. But Unferth, Excglaf's son, strong in boasting, did not remember the shameful words he had spoken earlier, drunk with wine, when he now entrusted Beowulf with this weapon, trusting a better swordsman than himself. Unferth himself did not dare risk his life beneath the waves, or face the enemy in that underwater domain. Thus he lost fame and the chance for heroic honor. But Beowulf was a different man. Once he had prepared for battle, there was no doubt of his courage. Then Beowulf saw among the war gear a victorious blade, an ancient giant-forged sword, strong in its edges, a weapon of highest honor among warriors. But it was so large that no ordinary man could have carried it into battle. It was splendid and massive, the work of giants. He seized the ringed hilt. The fierce shielding warrior, angry and grim, drew out the patterned blade. Desperate for life, he swung it furiously so that it struck hard at her neck and broke the bone rings. The blade went straight through the doomed flesh. She collapsed on the floor. The sword was blood-wet. The warrior rejoiced in his work. A brilliant light flashed. A radiance filled the hall, as bright and clear as heaven's own candle shining from the sky. He looked over the hall, then walked along the wall, brandishing the weapon grim and determined. The warrior of Hygelac holding the sword firmly by the hilt, angry and resolute. The edge was not ruined for that warrior, and he quickly set out to repay Grendel for all the deadly raids he had inflicted on the West Danes, many more than just once, when he killed Hrothgar's hearth companions, devouring 15 sleeping warriors, and carrying off another 15 as hateful trophies. Beowulf repaid him for all of it. The fierce champion went to where he saw Grendel lying battle-weary, lifeless, just as death had struck him earlier in the fight at Heorot. The body burst apart when Beowulf struck the corpse. He cut off Grendel's head. Soon the wise men waiting above, those watching the water with Hrothgar, saw that the waves were all churned up, the sea stained with blood, the water dark with swirling gore. The grey-haired elders, gathered around their good king, began to speak together. Many believed the noble warrior would never return, that the she-wolf of the deep had destroyed him. Then came the 9th hour of the day. The brave shieldings did not leave, though at last the gold friend of men, Hrothgar, went home from the lakeside. But the guests remained, hearts sick with fear, staring into the mere. They waited and did not expect that they would ever see their beloved lord alive again. Then the sword, the one Beowulf had used, began to melt after the bloodshed, its patterned blade dissolving like ice under combat heat. This was a marvel. It melted completely, just as frost does when the Father of all loosens winter's bindings and unwinds the frozen ropes. For he alone holds power over seasons and times. That is the true Lord. The Vedageyat Beowulf did not take more treasure from that hall, though he saw many riches there. He carried away only the head and the sword hilt, glittering with treasure. The blade itself had melted, the patterned steel burned away, for the blood of the poisonous demon was too hot, too foul, and it dissolved the weapon the moment the creature died. Soon the warrior who had survived the sea battle rose upward through the waves. The water, once blood-darkened, cleared completely, the cursed realms cleansed now that the alien spirit had surrendered its life and left this temporary world. Then the leader of seafarers came to land, swimming strongly. He rejoiced in his safe return, bearing the heavy burden of the trophies he had taken. His men went toward him, thanking God. A noble troop of brave, noble warriors, delighted that they could see their lord alive and unharmed. Immediately the helmet and mail were loosened from the hero. The lake stilled once more, the water beneath the clouds stained red with battle gore. They set out from there on foot, spirits lifted, walking familiar paths. The bold-hearted warriors bore the head from the cliff, but only with great difficulty. It took 4 of the brave to carry that bloody trophy on its spear shaft, all the way to Heorot, the gold-bright hall. Soon they approached the hall, 14 Geats together, battle-ready and proud, their lord among them, striding boldly across the meadlands. Then came walking in Beowulf, the prince of noble warriors, a brave man honored for deeds, a battle-bold hero, greeted by Hrothgar. Then by the hair, Grendel's head was borne onto the floor, where men were drinking. A terror for earls, and for the noblewoman as well, a strange and awful sight. The warriors gazed on it. Beowulf spoke, the son of Ecgtheow. Lo, we bring you this sea booty, son of half-Dane, lord of the shieldings, with glad hearts, a token of triumph which you behold here. I barely survived that battle beneath the water. The work was completed only with hardship. The fight would have failed had God not shielded me. I could accomplish nothing in the battle with Hrunting, though the weapon is good, but the ruler of men granted me that I should see hanging on the wall a splendid, mighty ancient sword. Often it helps the friendless, and I drew that weapon. Then in that struggle, when fortune favored me, I slew the guardian of the hall. Then that battle blade, the patterned sword, melted, burned in surging blood, the hottest of war sweats. I carried away the hilt from there, avenged with hostile deeds the death-slaying of the Danes, as was fitting. And now I promise you this, that you may sleep sorrowless in Heorot, with your troop of warriors, and every noble warrior of your people, both noblemen and young retainers. You need no longer fear deadly harm, Lord of the Shieldings, as you once did. Then the golden hilt was placed into the hand of the old king, the grey-haired battle leader. Giant's ancient work. It came into the possession of the Lord of the Danes after the fall of the demons, a wonder-smith's craft. And he who had wrought hateful deeds, the grim-hearted being, the enemy of God, guilty of murder, he and his mother as well, were given into the power of the world's greatest king between the two seas, the best of those who dealt out treasure in Scandinavia. Hrothgar spoke then, beholding the hilt, the ancient relic, on which was written the tale of old strife. How the flood destroyed, the pouring sea engulfed the race of giants. They had acted terribly, a people estranged from the eternal Lord. To them, the ruler repaid their wickedness with the surging waters. So was it marked on the fittings of the shining gold, with rune staves rightly set, told and declared for whom that sword, the choicest of irons, was first wrought, its twisted hilt and serpent-patterned blade. Then the wise one spoke, the son of Halfdane. All were silent. Lo, it may be said by anyone who works truth and right among his people and remembers far back, old guardian of law, that this hero was born better. Your fame is lifted up across wide ways, my friend Beowulf, over every nation. You hold it all with patience, strength joined with wisdom of mind. I must fulfill toward you our friendship, just as we spoke before. You shall become a comfort for your people forever, a help to heroes. Heremod was not so to the sons of Ecgwela, the Shieldings of old. He did not grow for their good, but for slaughter and death-bringing to the Danish people. Enraged, he destroyed his table companions, his shoulder comrades, until he, the great king, went alone, turned away from human joys. Though mighty God had lifted him in power and exalted him above all men, yet in his heart grew a bloodthirsty treasure, a murderous spirit. Not at all did he give rings to the Danes as he ought. Joyless, he endured the bitter toil of strife, a long misery for his people. Take warning from this, learn human virtue. Old in winters I speak this lesson for you. It is a wonder to tell how mighty God to humankind distributes wisdom through far-reaching thought, land and lordship, for he holds the rule of all things. Sometimes God, in love, allows a man's mind and plans to turn toward greatness. He gives him, in his own homeland, the joy of the earth to rule, a strong city, a protected place for people. He lets that man have control over wide portions of the world, a broad kingdom, until the ruler, through his own lack of wisdom, can no longer see that it must end. He lives in plenty, nothing troubles him. No sickness, no old age, no secret sorrow darkens his mind. No enemies threaten him with sword hate. Instead, the whole world seems to bend to his will. He does not understand how dangerous this is. until inside him a swelling of pride grows and spreads in his heart. Then the guardian of the soul falls asleep, the watcher within, and that sleep is too deep. The destroyer comes very near, the one who shoots sin from the bow of evil. Then in his chest under his helmet the bitter arrow strikes, and he does not know how to defend himself. A crooked, devil-sent message from a cursed spirit. Then it seems too little to him that he has held honor for so long. Greedy and grim of heart, he hoards instead of giving. He will not share his fed, fat rings in generosity, but forgets and ignores the future that awaits him, and forgets the share of honor and glory that God once gave him. The ruler of splendor, giver of worth. In the end it turns out this way. The mortal body collapses, falls in death. Then someone else comes, another man, who without sorrow divides the treasures, the earlier wealth of that nobleman, and does not care at all how the dead once earned them. So guard yourself against this deadly evil, dear Beowulf, best of men. Choose what is better, everlasting wisdom. Do not give your heart to pride, great warrior. Right now your strength is shining, but only for a while. Soon enough it will be that sickness or the sword will separate you from your power, or the clutch of fire, or the surging flood, or the grip of a blade, or the flight of a spear, or terrible old age, or the brightness of your eyes will grow dim and fade. Suddenly, Prince, death will overpower you, just as I, for 50 years, ruled the Hring Danes under the sky and defended them in battle with spear and sword against many nations throughout this Middle-earth, so that I thought there was no enemy under heaven's arch who could stand against me. Listen, after all that joy and celebration, trouble came back to me in my own land. Once Grendel, my old enemy, that intruder, had shown up. I carried that burden of worry constantly in my heart, always afraid. Thank God, thank the eternal Lord, that I lived to see the day when I could look with my own eyes on that monster's blood-covered head. Now go to your seat and enjoy the feast, honored warrior. You and I will share many more treasures together once morning comes. The Geat Beowulf was cheerful and immediately went to find his seat, just as the wise king told him. Then once again, as before, the brave men sitting in the hall were served a fine meal, with a fresh, lively sound in the room. Night's darkness settled over the warriors. The whole company stood up. The grey-haired king wanted to go to bed. The bold Geat, the mighty shield warrior, was also ready to rest. Right away, the hall servant guided the weary traveller from far away, showing him everything he needed and explaining all the duties of a guest, just as he would for warriors who had to be ready for battle the next day. Beowulf rested then, open-hearted and at ease. The hall stood tall and gold-shining around him. A spirit slept inside until the dark raven, joyful in the sky, announced heaven's pleasure with its morning call. Then bright light came, and the warriors prepared to move. The noblemen were ready to return to their people, eager to travel. The brave visitor Beowulf, proud in spirit, wanted to go far from there and head toward his ship. Then the strong king ordered Hrunting, the sword, to be brought to the son of Ecglaf. Beowulf told him to take back his beloved iron blade. He thanked Unferth for the loan and said he considered him a good friend, skilled in battle. He didn't insult the sword at all. He was a noble, courageous man. Then the warriors, ready for the journey and equipped with their armor, prepared to leave. The nobleman walked with honor toward the Danes, to the place where the other leader stood. The brave warrior Hrothgar. Beowulf, son of Ecgtheow, spoke. Now we who crossed the sea want to tell you, after coming here from far away, that we are heading home to seek out King Hygelac. We have been treated generously here. You cared for us well. If there is anything I can ever do on earth to win even more of your goodwill, Lord of your people, anything like the battles I have already fought for you, I will be ready right away. And if I hear, across the seas, that surrounding nations begin to threaten you, as your enemies once did, I will bring you 1,000 warriors, heroes to help you. I know Hygelac, Lord of the Geats, even though he is young, will support me in both words and actions when I praise you and offer you the aid of my spear, bringing strength wherever you need men. And if Hrethric, your son, chooses to visit the courts of the Geats, he will find many friends there. A foreign land is always easier to visit when a man is worthy. Hrothgar answered him. The wise Lord himself placed these words in your heart. I have never heard someone so young speak with such insight. You are strong in body and wise in mind, skilled in speech. I believe, if things should turn out that war takes the life of Hrethel's grandson, or sickness or the sword takes your king, the shepherd of your people, and you survive, that the Geats will have no better man to choose as king, no finer keeper of the nation's treasure. Beowulf, my dear friend, your character pleases me more and more. You have brought something precious to both our nations, the Geats and the Danes. Now there will be shared peace between us and the end of the secret hatred we once endured. That peace shall last as long as I rule this wide kingdom. We will exchange gifts, visit one another across the swan's path, the sea, and send love tokens by ship. I know these peoples keep their word, both in war and in friendship, following the old, honorable ways. Then the protector of warriors, the shelter of nobles, the son of Halfdane, gave Beowulf more treasures inside the hall. He urged him, with these gifts, to return safely to his own people and to come back again soon. The king of the Shieldings, noble and good, kissed the best of his warriors and embraced him around the neck. Tears fell down the old king's grey beard, for he expected, more strongly than anything else, that they would never see each other again, brave men talking together in the hall. Beowulf was so dear to him that he could not hold back the surge of emotion in his chest. Bound tightly in his heart was a deep, private longing for this beloved man, as if he were his own son. Beowulf then left, proud with his gold and shining with treasures, stepping across the grassy earth. The sea ship waited for its master, the man who now rowed down to the anchor. As they walked, Hrothgar's generosity was praised again and again. Truly, he was a king without fault in every way, until old age eventually took from him the strength and joy that had once harmed so many enemies. Then Beowulf and his warriors, bold young men, came to the sea. They carried ring-woven chain shirts and strong, locked mail coats. The coast guard recognized the returning heroes, just as he had before. But this time he met them with no suspicion or harshness. He rowed toward them and said that the brave men of the Geats were welcome, and that he would escort them safely to their ship. There on the sand stood their sea-curved vessel, its prow ring-studded, loaded with armor, horses, and treasures. The tall mast rose high above the hoard Hrothgar had given. Beowulf then gave the boat guard a sword decorated with gold, so that later, at the mead bench, that man would be honored and valued above others for the heirloom he received. Then the warriors went aboard the ship, The vessel pushed out into the deep water, and Beowulf departed, leaving the land of the Danes behind. Then the sailors raised a great sea sail up the mast, fastened tight to the yard arm. The waves thudded against the ship's wooden sides. The wind did not slow their journey at all. The sea traveller sped forward. The foam-necked ship glided over the waves, its bound prow cutting through the sea streams until the men could see the cliffs of the Geats, the familiar headlands of home. The ship surged upward as the wind lifted it and then settled safely on land. Quickly, the harbour guard, who for a long time had watched eagerly for returning friends, came down to the water. He secured the wide-bosomed ship with anchor ropes so the waves would not break apart the beautiful vessel. He ordered the treasures to be carried up from the ship, rings, gold ornaments, and precious objects. They did not have far to go to find their treasure-giver, Hygelac the Hrethling, who lived at home nearby, inside the seawall, with his companions around him. His hall was splendid, and the king was famous for his courage. Hygd, his queen, was very young, wise, and well-mannered, although she had spent only a few winters inside the fortress. She was Hereth's daughter. She was not at all small-minded or stingy with gifts toward the Geats. She shared treasure freely. But before her, before Hygd, there had been Queen Modthrith, a mighty woman whose behavior was terrifyingly cruel. No man, except her own lord, dared look her straight in the eye during the day. If any of her attendants did, she counted it as a deadly crime. Their hands were tied, and soon afterward a sword decided their fate. The shining blade made their death known. This is not how a queen should act, even if she is beautiful. A woman who is supposed to weave peace among tribes should not seek the death of those she ought to protect after even the smallest imagined offense. But Modthrith's cruelty was eventually softened. So the drinkers in the hall said, after she was given, shining with gold, to a young warrior of noble birth. After she crossed the dark-colored sea to visit Offa's hall under her father's guidance, everything changed. From then on she behaved well, lived honorably in the royal seat, and enjoyed her life with goodness and dignity. She held deep love for her husband, the leader of warriors. And Offa, as far as I've heard, was the best king of all mankind living between the seas. Offa was famous everywhere for generosity and battle skill, a spear-bold man. He ruled his homeland wisely. From him came Eomer, Hemming's kinsman, Garmund's nephew, a powerful and capable fighter who helped his people. Then Beowulf and his troop of hand-picked men walked along the sandy shore, traveling over the wide coastland zones. The sun, the world candle, shone brightly. The sun hurried south as they continued their journey. With courage, they came at last to their lord, the slayer of Ongentheow, inside his stronghold. They heard that the young war-king was ready to give out rings and treasure. Hygelac quickly heard the news that Beowulf, the shield companion, had returned home alive from the dangerous venture. The king ordered the hall inside to be cleared for the honored guests. Beowulf sat facing his uncle, now safe from battle, and the young king greeted him warmly with affectionate words. Hereth's daughter, the gracious queen, passed among the hall benches, pouring mead, sharing the cup lovingly with the warriors. Hygelac then turned to his companion in the high hall, eager with curiosity about what had happened. "How did your journey go, dear Beowulf, when you suddenly decided to sail far off, over the salt sea, to seek battle at Heorot? Did you truly help Hrothgar and ease the terrible troubles of that famous king?" My heart boiled with worry. I did not trust that dangerous trip, especially for someone I love. I begged you many times not to challenge that murderous creature, but to let the Danes themselves fight their war with Grendel. I thank God that I can see you safe before me now." Beowulf spoke, the son of Ecgtheow. "It isn't secret, Lord Hygelac. Many people already know it, what kind of battle we had with Grendel on that night, and how many troubles he had brought on the Danes for so long, causing them misery for years. I paid him back for all of it. Now none of Grendel's kin can brag anywhere on earth about what happened, not even the last survivor of that hateful family, wrapped in treachery. When I first arrived at Hrothgar's ring hall to greet him, the great son of Halfdane welcomed me at once. As soon as he understood my intentions, he seated me beside his own son. The whole company was joyful. Never in my life did I see a greater celebration among hall-sitters beneath the sky. Sometimes the noble queen, the peacemaker between peoples, walked through the hall, greeting the young warriors, handing out rings before returning to her seat. Sometimes Hrothgar's daughter carried ale among the men. I heard the hall-sitters call her Freawaru. Dressed in shining gold, she offered treasure to the warriors. She is promised, young and beautifully adorned, to Froda's glad son. The king of the Shieldings, the ruler of the realm, hopes that through this marriage, old blood feuds and battles will be settled. But, as people often say, whenever a prince is killed and a marriage is meant to bring peace, trouble doesn't stay quiet for long. Even if the bride is excellent, the feud may return. This may anger the warriors of the Heathobards and every man of their people when the Danes' noble young men walk into the hall with her, surrounded by warriors, wearing the old heirlooms of the Heathobards. They'll recognize the swords and the ring-adorned helmets that once belonged to their own fathers, weapons they had controlled until the Danes killed them and carried those treasures away from the battlefield, along with the lives of their dear companions. Then at a banquet, an old spear warrior, one who remembers the past very clearly, will see one of these weapons and feel his heart grow fierce. With grief, he'll test the courage of a young Heathobard warrior, stirring up deadly thoughts inside him. He'll say something like, "My friend, do you recognize that sword? That is the blade your father carried in his last battle. The precious iron he held beneath his helmet the day the Danes killed him. They took control of the battlefield after Withergard fell. The brave Shieldings won that fight after the death of our heroes. And now here comes the son of one of those killers, walking proudly into our hall, boasting about the murder and carrying the treasure you should rightfully inherit." The men of the Heathobards keep feeding these thoughts, day after day, into the minds of their young warriors. With bitter words they provoke them, until the time finally comes when a young man, because of his father's death, takes his revenge. After the bite of his sword, he lies there sleeping in blood, guilty of killing a life. Then the killer escapes alive and knows where to flee for safety. After that, the oaths on both sides are broken. The warrior's promises collapse. And when Inyeld hears of it, waves of murderous anger rise up in him, and his love for his wife grows cold from grief and rage. That is why I don't think peace between the Heathobards and the Danes will last, nor do I trust their friendship to hold firm. Now I should continue speaking about Grendel, so you fully understand what happened, generous lord of treasure, and how the attack finally ended. After the bright jewel of heaven, the sun, went down over the earth, the hateful spirit came, furious and hungry, seeking us where we waited safely for the right moment. That night, Hondscio was the first to fall in battle, doomed to die. He lay closest to Grendel, dressed for combat, and Grendel became his killer, swallowing the entire body of that brave young warrior. My dear companion. But even after that, the murderer didn't hurry to leave the Golden Hall empty-handed. Remembering his old crimes, his bloody teeth eager for more, he wanted to test my strength next. His huge enchanted sack, broad and strange, made with devilish craft and lined with dragon skins, hung ready. He planned to stuff me into it alive, an innocent man, and carry me off like so many others. But he couldn't do it. When I rose against him in anger and stood upright, everything changed. It would take too long to tell every detail of how I repaid that enemy for each one of his evil deeds. What matters, my king, is that I defended your people with my actions. Grendel fled, slipping away for a little while. But he enjoyed life only briefly after that. Though he escaped, my grip had left its mark on him. My hand crushed his heart, and in misery he sank down into the dark waters. For that victory, Hrothgar, lord of the Shieldings, rewarded me richly at dawn with shining gold and many treasures when we sat at the feast together. There was singing and storytelling in the hall. The old Shielding king, skilled in many tales, spoke of events from long ago. Sometimes the brave warrior played the harp, bringing joy with its sound. Sometimes he recited a poem, true and sorrowful. Sometimes he told strange old stories, sharing them correctly and generously, as a noble-hearted king should. And sometimes again, the aging warrior, burdened by years, would speak to the young men about his old battles. His chest would swell with feeling when he remembered the many things he had lived through over the winters. So we stayed inside, celebrating the whole day, enjoying ourselves until night came, another night among the people. But soon after, Grendel's mother was ready again to seek revenge. She travelled in grief. Her son had been destroyed by the battle-hate of the Geats. The monstrous woman took her revenge for her child. She killed a warrior bravely. That was Heorot, the wise old counselor, a man deeply trusted. His life was suddenly taken. The Danes couldn't do anything about it when morning came. They couldn't burn his body on a funeral fire, nor place their beloved man on the pyre. She had carried him off, wrapped in a monster's embrace, down beneath the mountain streams. This was the most painful sorrow Hrothgar had ever endured in his long rule. Then that king, troubled and desperate, begged me with all his heart to risk my life again and face the turmoil of the waters, to prove my courage and achieve glory. He promised to reward me if I succeeded. I found the horrible guardian of that deep place, the famous, terrifying creature known far and wide. For a time she and I struggled hand to hand. The water churned with hot blood, and in her underwater hall I struck off the head of Grendel's mother with a mighty ancient blade. It was not an easy victory, but I carried my life away from that place. I was not doomed yet. And afterward, Hrothgar, the protector of his warriors and son of half-Dane, gave me many treasures once again. That is how the good king of the people, Hrothgar, lived, generous and honorable. And I was not cheated of my rewards either. I did not lose out on the payment owed for my strength. Instead, he gave me many treasures. Hrothgar, son of half-Dane, handed them over freely, trusting my judgment. And now, king of warriors, I want to bring these gifts to you and offer them gladly. Everything still depends on your favor. I have no close family except for you, Hygelac. Then Beowulf ordered the boar standard, the tall war helmet, the grey mail coat, and the splendid sword to be brought in. He spoke this formal speech. "This war gear was given to me by Hrothgar, the wise king. He told me I should tell you his thanks first. He said that King Heorot, Lord of the Shieldings, owned it for a long time. But he never gave it to his own son, the brave Heorot, even though he loved him. So enjoy it all well." I heard that with these treasures came 4 horses, quickly led forward, matching in color, apple brown. Beowulf gave both horses and treasure generously. That is how a good man should act, not set a hidden trap for a companion, not betray him or secretly plot his death. Beowulf was fiercely loyal to Hygelac. Each remembered to bring comfort and help to the other. I heard that he gave Queen Hygd the beautiful neck ring, the wonderful treasure that Wealhtheow, Hrothgar's daughter, had given him. Along with it, he gave her 3 sleek horses, shining with bright saddles. Her status was honored even more after receiving that ring. So the son of Ecgtheow, Beowulf, acted boldly, known for his battles and good deeds. He lived by honor. He did not drunkenly kill his hearth companions. His mind was not wild or cruel. Instead, he protected with the greatest strength God had given him, and fought bravely. For a long time, though, he had been considered lowly, because the young sons of the Geats did not think much of him. They did not think him worthy of a seat of honor at the mead bench. The leaders of the Vedas didn't believe in him. They thought he was slow, a weak noble with little promise. But everything changed. Fortune turned for that man blessed with glory, and all their insults were overturned. Then the protector of warriors, Hygelac, the brave king, ordered that Hrethel's sword be brought in. It was decorated with gold. Among the Geats, no treasure in the form of a sword was more precious. He laid it on Beowulf's lap, and then gave him 7,000 pieces of treasure, along with a hall and a throne. Both land and rule were given to him. Beowulf had more rights and a greater kingdom than anyone else except the rightful heir. But trouble returned in the following days. You're listening to Classics Made Clear, classic texts translated with accuracy and accessibility for today's listener. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share these videos with your friends.